Welcome, everyone. As we learn this special segment known as For the Shabbos Table, this week it doubles also as the main Vaeschanan shir because Wednesday night is Tisha B'Av and Thursday night, so we're doubling the main Vaeschanan shir and For the Shabbos Table. The sponsor of the main Vaeschanan shir is my dear Talmud Neil Stern and his family. L'Zeicha Nishmas, his shver, who was nifta this year, Shlomo ben Chaim Meir, his neshama should have an aliyah. He should be a melitz yosher for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. And we want to thank Neil Stern. Also, the segment known as For the Shabbos Table is made possible by a grant by the Rubin family. So we want to thank them very much and wish that Hashem should be mamale kol, all of their requests for the good. I'd also like to give shvach v'odah to Hashem myself, as this Shabbos Vaeschanan, Shabbos Nachmu, is my bar mitzvah parsha, reaching another milestone of a birthday, this Yud Beis Av, this coming Sunday. I thank Hashem for life and hoidah l'sha'avar and a tefillah l'asid. It should be a good year of good health and happiness together with my Eshes Chayil and my family. Vaeschanan al Hashem, the Sefer HaPliya, otherwise known as the Sefer HaKana. You might have seen the Sefer HaKana quoted in the Mishnah Brura. The Sefer HaKana it's a controversy who wrote it. The Chidah in Shem HaGdolim and the Ramah Mapanu say it was written by a holy man by the name of Rav Avigdor, and it's a collection of sayings that he has from Eliyahu Hanavi. So that's pretty exciting. So he says that about the Malachim, it says in the pasuk, "V'ragleim regel yeshara," their feet is one perfect foot. That's why we hold our feet together in Shemona Esrei to look like the Malachim who have 1 foot. We put them together as one. So he says from Eliyahu Hanavi that Yeshara is Gematria Tefillah. Right? Yeshara, which is 515, is the same gematria as Tefillah, which is 515. And he says this is because the Malachim every day, we know that the Malachim, their duty is to sing Shira to Hashem. The Malachim every day say 515 Tefillahs to the Rebbeinu Shalom every day. And he says that this is where Moshe Rabbeinu knew to daven 515 tefillahs to Hashem, because we know Vaeschanan, and I beseeched, is the gematria 515, which is also the gematria of tefillah, and it's also the gematria of shira. Indeed, the Balaturim says that Vaeschanan is the gematria shira. I believe that over here we see a fusion of what it says in Brachas Daf Lamed Beis. Now, I've mentioned many times in this share that a lot of times a daf number is connected with its teaching. So Lamed Beis, of course, is Leiv, and what is Avodah Shi B'Leiv? It's Tefillah. So on Daf Lamed Beis in Brachas, it tells us a very fundamental rule about Tefillah. La'olam yisader adam shvachai shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the right way to daven is to first give praise to Hashem, acknowledge the blessings that we have, and then offer our petition. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu does over here. You see the formula. Vaeschanan al Hashem, v'yisahi leimar. First he says, Atach, Eloi Salahara, he says, Abducha, Eskadlucha, V'esyodcha, Achazaka, you started to show your servant your greatness, your powerful hand, and he already conquered the areas under Transjordan of the mighty giant Og and Sichain. And then he said, after he praises Hashem, then he gives the bakasha, Ebrana, please let me pass, now let me pass, ve'era es ha'aretz ha'tova, and see the goodly land. This formula of first giving song and then praise is what is the first petition that we say, Matzah Shabbos Slichas, as we get ready for Yom Adin. We know that there is a recurring stanza, Lishmoa el arina ve'elat tefillah, to hear the song and then the petition. And of course that's the inyan in the morning of being Saimech Geula L'Tefillah, right? That's what the Gemara says. The person should always be Saimech Geula L'Tefillah. That's why we say Baruch Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. And then Hashem says Tiftach Fi Yagid Tila Secha. First we say praise, that Hashem is the Redeemer of Israel. And then we ask for our petitions. And it's interesting, just as an aside, there is a very, very basic Rabbeinu Yaina in Mesechus Brachos where he gives two reasons for the juxtaposition of Gal Yisrael to Tefillah. He says, first of all, we say to Hashem, just like you redeemed Klal Yisrael and Mitzrayim, because you listened to their prayers, right? Vayishma Hashem es koleinu, you heard our tza'akos, our cries, vatal shavosam el elakim min ha'avoda, and our requests came up from the harsh labor. So also please now listen to our request. That's one reason. Rabbeinu Yonah says another very basic reason, and that is that since Hashem saved us from Egypt, we were Avdei Paro, and instead He saved us and we became His Avodim. How do we serve Hashem? This is the formula, and this is in the fusion of the fact that Tefillah and Shira are the same gematria. Tefillah is 515, Shira is 515, to allude to the fact that Hashem wants us to combine first praise and then petition. Now, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu prayed 515 times, and this is a famous Gemara. The Gemara says, Ma yasa adam, what should a person do? Shehispalel v'lo nena, if they daven and they're not answered. So we would say, well, I don't have to daven again. To the contrary, if somebody asks me a second time, I get annoyed. They're a nudge, a third time for sure. And, by human being, you could say, well, maybe you forgot. So after a while, you ask again. Maybe you forgot. But Hashem doesn't forget. So why should we ask more than once? It's a very valid question, right? It says, Hashem doesn't forget. So you already asked. So if the answer is yes, He'll do it. If the answer is no, no. So the Gemara says, no, that's not what it says in the pasuk. Kavei el Hashem, hope to Hashem. If you're not answered, chazak, be strong. V'yamei tzlibecha, be courageous of heart. V'kavei el Hashem, and hope again. And we see fortified to this that Moshe Rabbeinu davened the same tefillah 515 times. Now, we have to know the reason for this. The reason for this is because Hashem says, the more you daven to me, the closer you become, right? What is our tefillah? Tefillah b'makom karbanos. Tefillah is instead of karbanos. Carbon is karav, to get close. And the Vaeschanan says, the more you daven to me, the more you strengthen and fortify the idea of ein oid milvadoi. There's nobody else but Him, and it's hakol toli boy. It all depends on Hashem. And I believe that that's probably the meaning of the pasuk, Kavei el Hashem, chazak v'yamei tzlibech. What does it mean to strengthen the heart? It means to realize more that it's not up to me, it's the Rabbeinu Shalom. And that's what we find. We find that the Chazal say, Mipnei ma'i moisein akaros. Why were our matriarchs barren? Mipnei shemisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'tfilas, because Hashem wanted to hear their tefillas over and over and over again for a course of years. I mean, what does that mean? Hashem caused them to suffer and be childless? No, Hashem wanted the perfection of their closeness to Him. The Einei Leah Rakos, the eyes of Leah came out because she prayed so many times not to fall into the lot of Esav. She's praised for that. That brings a person closer to Hashem. That's what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to come closer to Him with our davening. So therefore, if you have a young lady or a young man, or not so young, a lady and man, they should continue to daven all the time for a zivik, to get closer and closer to Hashem. Right? Shilam alois esa einai elaharim me'ayin yovai ezri. Where is my Ezer going to come from? My Ezer connectai. Ezri me'yim Hashem. So keep on davening. That's what we learn out from Moshe Rabbeinu's davening 515 times. Now, on the word Vaeschanan, there's a famous medrash, and the medrash says that there's 10 lashonos of tefillah. And the greatest lashon of tefillah is Vaeschanan. And the simple reason is because it means that a person comes and is asking not in their own merit, not in the merit of their ancestors, but they're asking for chanan, for chinam, for the grace of Hashem. They ask humbly. Moshe Rabbeinu was the honor ma'od mikol adam. He asks that Hashem should give him a matnas chinam. Chinam means for free. He should show him chen. But we could also say that Vaeschanan is a composite. Chanan means to give a gift, and it starts with the ace. Ace is aleph through taf. Who could ask for the schus of the Torah, which goes from aleph through taf, more than Moshe Rabbeinu, who was up 40 days and 40 nights and gave the whole Torah to Klal Yisrael? One of the Rishonim that I quote in this shir from time to time is the Paneach Raza. There's an interesting Paneach Raza over here. The Paneach Raza says that Vaeschanan is b'gematria Shira. Why? Mikan shetzarech lispalel benigen uni'imas ker. From here we see that it's beneficial, he uses a lashon of tzarech, that it's necessary to pray with a melody and a sweet voice. In other words, a person should adapt singing in his davening. My Heilige Zayda, who was called by his contemporaries as a tzaddik yisoid olam, and he was known as a Talmud Chava to the Heilige Chassam Sofer Zechatzav Kosh Racha Schutz Yagen Aleinu. My Zayda the Imrei Eish from Ungvar Zechatzav Kosh Racha Schutz Yagen Aleinu. You should be a lichtiger melitz yosher for our family. In his Shalos Tshuvas Imrei Eish, in the first tshuva in the Sefer, I have the Sefer at home, he writes that someone wrote him a shaila that he was in shul and someone next to him was davening and singing. And he wanted him to stop because his singing was disturbing his davening. So he sent a tshuva to the Imrei Eish. So does he have a right to tell him, don't sing? Your singing is bothering my davening. So the Imrei Eish quotes the Gemara in Brachas that it says, where should you daven? B'mokam rina shamtei tefillah. In the Beis HaKnesses, a place of song, there should be davening. And Rashi says, what does it mean, a place of song? Rashi says, when a person davens b'ne'imais kel orev, in a melodious, sweet voice. So he says you can't tell a person not to daven when he's davening the right way. Now, of course, singing shows a passion. It facilitates the kavanah. It shows meaningfulness. But there's more to singing than just that. There's a Bnei Yissaschar. The Heilige Bnei Yissaschar, Zech Tzadik L'Vracha Schus Yagen Aleinu, says that zemer is a lashon of pruning, like it says, b'shas hazmira. They used to prune the grapes or prune the olives. And he says that why are zmiras called zmiras, like Psukkah de Zimrei that we say every morning? It's because when we sing, it helps to cut away the mekatrigim, the prosecutors that try to stop our davening from going up to Shemayim. In a similar vein, it's very interesting. The Heilige Ben Ish Chai, very interesting Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai says that there are mekatrigim that try to block our tefillos. They say, Rabbi Nisham, you're going to listen to his tefillah. Are you kidding? You know how he behaves? You're going to listen to his tefillah? So the Ben Ish Chai says we camouflage it with song. When it's song, the Mekatrik thinks it's praise of Hashem. And praise of Hashem, he has no right to block, even if a person is a sinner. So when we sing, and we sing also our bakashas, our petitions, it slips through to Hashem. The Eitzer Aploy says another reason for song, because we know that our tefillas are connected karbanos. Our tefillas correspond to the ancient karbanos. And when we brought a carbon, the Levium did shira with all kinds of musical instrumentation, the flute, the lyre, the harp, the cymbals, and all kinds of percussion instruments. And as it says, musical instruments, ein soif. There's no end to how many of them. And therefore he says, we sing with our davening because it's like a carbon, and hashir ma'akev es ha-carbon. Now, I'd like to share with you a very interesting thing. You know, I posed this question to artificial intelligence this morning, if there is any difference between the man and the woman as to memory. And the artificial intelligence answered me that there's no conclusive proof either way. And this is after looking it up in Google and seeing conflicting reports about whether men have a better memory, women have a better memory. Okay, now we turn to our Torah. The Heilige Rashbatz, in his Sefer Mogen Avos, says that men by nature have a better memory than women. And he says that's why a man is called a Zohar. Zohar means Zecher, to remember. And a woman is called Noshim, from the word Noshisi Toiva, to forget good. So men have a better memory than women. And it's interesting that the Rashbatz brings down a Maimer Chazal, and this Maimer Chazal has been a matter of controversy, because some say that it's a mistake where it's written, but there is a Maimer Chazal that the Rashbatz brings down, that Yud Kavim Shikha Yarda La'olam, 10 measures of forgetfulness came down to the world, and Tes Not Lanoshim, and 9 measures were taken by women. But you got to hear what the Rashbatz writes. He says, why was forgetfulness given to women? So he says, because it says about women that it's harder to appease a woman because she doesn't appease easily, because she was created from bone. Man was created from the earth, but a woman was created from bone. Bone is hard. So therefore a woman, it's harder to appease. And therefore Hashem gave the gift of forgetfulness, that she should forget, that she shouldn't hold a grudge. It's very interesting, Rashbatz. Reb Chaim Pelagi adds that women were not given the gift of remembering because they don't have a chiyuv of learning Torah, and since they don't have a chiyuv of learning, since they don't have a chiyuv of learning Torah, therefore they don't have the lav of pen tishkach es hadvarim ha'ela, that they shouldn't forget the Torah. I also want to suggest another reason why I believe that women were given forgetfulness, because it says that a woman, when she gives birth, has to bring a chatas. And it says that she has to bring a chatas. It says that she has to bring a chatas because she swears when she gives birth that she will never be with her husband again because of the tremendous pain of the Leda. So therefore, Hashem gives her the gift of forgetfulness, that she should forget the terrible pain of Leda, that she should be in agreement to be with her husband again and to have more children. It's interesting that with this gift, one of the hardest mitzvahs in the Torah is the mitzvah of lois sitar, to not bear a grudge. It's one of the hardest mitzvahs. When a person could put away and forget and let the pain disappear, that's a tremendous gift, and it's a tremendous gift in maintaining shalom bayis. That's one of the reasons why the woman is the tzofia halichos beisa and the akeres habayis when it comes to shalom bayis. V'oisi tziva Hashem ba'esahi l'lamed eschem, and to me Hashem commanded to teach you. Rashi says l'lamed eschem, that's Torah Shebal Peh. That's the Gemara. Moshe Rabbeinu gave over the oral law. Now about Gemara, the Sefer Igeres Hatil asks, why is Gemara called Gemara? So we know that the simple reason is because Gemara means tradition. What Gemara is what Rebbe handed down from Rebbe to Talmud all the way back to Sinai, right? Gemara Gemira, we have a tradition. Indeed, that's why originally we weren't supposed to write down the oral law. Because by not writing down the oral law, that ensures that you should have a Rebbe. Because otherwise you can't learn the oral law. Today, when we have Gemaras, because of Eis Lasei Hashem Eferus Secha, because of persecution, we would have forgot it, so they allowed at the time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi to write the Mishnah, and then at the time of Ravina Rashi to write even Gemara. But beforehand, it ensured that the tradition would be sacred. Because the only way you would know it is if you heard it from a Rebbe who heard it from his Rebbe. However, the Sefer Igeres Hatil gives another interesting reason why it's called Gemara. He says Gemara stands for the four malachim that surround the person on all four sides when they learn Gemara. And that's Gavriel, Michal, Rafal, and Uriel. So Gemara stands for Gavriel, Michal, Rafal, Uriel. And he says that that's the meaning of Chayna Malach Hashem Saviv L'Yireyav Vayechaltzem. The Malachim of Hashem surround those that fear Him, those that learn, and Chaltzem is, of course, Vayechaltzem has two meanings: deliver them and strengthens them. That's the protection of Gemara. And of course, with the ambition to finish a Masechta. Finishing a Masechta is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow in this world. And that's why the evil one, the Sitra Achra, Samuel, Samach Mem Aleph Lamed, the Chassidim say Samkel, Samuel stands for Siyam Masechta Ein Lasais. Tries to get us not to finish Masechtas. And therefore the great blessing of Daf Yomi that allows people to learn every day, no matter how hard their day is, Gemara. Gavriel, Michal, Rafal, Ariel, with Hashem on top of us to protect us and reach that end of the finish line, to confound the Sitra Achra and to make Siyumim. And that's what it says at the end of the Siyum, we say, V'daton aloch, and their mind should be upon you. Gavriel, Michal, Rafal, Ariel. And I just want to add an interesting historical vignette, that the first Gemara, with the Gemara in the middle, and Rashi on the right side, and Taisus on the left side, was made in Tuf Reish Mem Daled. Reish Mem Daled is Gematria Gemara. It's really, you can't even make that up. So we have the Aseret HaDibros in this week's Parsha. Anochi Hashem Elikecha, and in this week's parsha also is the first parsha of Kriya Shema Shema Yisrael Hashem Elikeinu Hashem Echad, which is Emunah in Hashem Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. So the Tzlach, which is the go-to sefer on Masechtas Brachas, the Tzlach says that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi started off Shas with the mitzvah of Kriya Shema Me'amasei Korin Shema Ba'arvin, because Kriya Shema is Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. It's so just like Hashem started the Ten Commandments with Anochi Hashem Elikecha, that's why Rabbi Yehuda Nasi started Shas with Shema Yisrael. And that's the idea of what we say in Pirkei Avos, Kol sheyirasai keidemes l'chachmasai. If yiras Hashem, belief in Hashem, comes before wisdom, then chachmasai miskayemes. And that's what we say. That's why we say the parsha Shema before V'hoyim Shemaya, because first we do Kabbalas al Malchus Shemayim, and then we do the Kabbalas HaMitzvahs, which is the second parsha of Kriya Shema. Now, of course, the famous Dvar Torah that they say by many bar mitzvahs is that the reason why Shas starts with the mitzvah of Kriya Shema in the evening, is because the first mitzvah that devolves upon a bar mitzvah boy at the age of 13 is to say Kriya Shema on the first night of his bar mitzvah. Although the Chassam Sofer argues and says that the first mitzvah that falls upon a bar mitzvah boy is the mitzvah of Simcha. The Samachta b'chol ha'tov asher nasan l'cha Hashem Elokecha u'lebeisecha. L'maisa is, we know that Shas and every Masechta starts with Daf Beis and not Daf Aleph. Why is that? So of course the simple answer is because Shas, we never start learning, we never end, we just continue. And therefore right away when we finish a Masechta we go to Daf Beis. There's no start, it's all one continuum. And even in the first page that we learn, we're not starting, we're continuing what we learned b'mei hayimai, what we learned in our mother's womb. There is a beautiful vart, however, that they say over from the Chassam Sofer, and I believe they say this same vart over in the name of the Heilige Gesat Rebbe Zechatzav Kodesh Brachos Chusi Yogan Aleinu. So both he and the Heilige Chassam Sofer Zechatzav Kodesh Chusi Yogan Aleinu say that the Gemara starts with Daf Beis because you should envision Daf Aleph as saying Reishis Chochma Yiras Hashem. Daf Aleph is first to know that there's a Rabbeinu Shalom, and that we're learning because the Rabbeinu Shalom told us V'dibar Tabam, and that Aleph stands for Aleph the chief, and an Aleph is a Vav with two Yuds, which is Chav Vav, which is B'gematria Yud Kei Vav Kei, the one and only. So that's number one, Reishis Chochma Yiras Hashem, and then we're ready to continue to learn Torah Hashem. Of course, in the Ten Commandments, we learn about the Heilige Shabbos. It's interesting that in the Minhagei Chassam Sofer Zmira Shabbos, it's brought down Shaloi Lechel Me'oichel Meyuchid B'Shabbos B'Meichal, that you shouldn't eat the unique foods of Shabbos during the week. So they say over that the Chassam Sofer would only have fish on Shabbos, Yom Tov, and Rosh Chodesh. There was a time I used to love to eat cucumber salad, and I would only eat cucumber salad on Shabbos. If by a wedding there would be cucumber salad, or in a restaurant there was cucumber salad, I wouldn't eat cucumber salad. I would save it special for Shabbos. You know, some people do that with cholent, but today people eat cholent Thursday night, they eat cholent Friday afternoon, they eat cholent Sunday night. But it's good to have something miyuchid for Shabbos, for honor of Shabbos. Just like it's a famous Magen Avram, that he says that you should have special Shabbos sticker begotten that you don't wear during the week. He says even, it's interesting, he says even the shirt, it should be miyuchid l'Shabbos. It shouldn't be for during the week. It should have special. There was a time that I used to have embroidered on my pants an S on the inside, that I should know that it's a Shabbos sticker pants, because all my pants are the same black pants. The Rebbe Vaes Ephraim, one of the star Talmidim of Rav Moshe, Rebbe Ephraim Greenblatt, Zech Tzadik L'Vrachos Chusi Yogan Aleinu, in his Rebbe Vaes Ephraim even says there's an Indian to have a special pair of glasses for Shabbos and a special watch for Shabbos. It's an Indian, and that way the idea is that we want to try to honor the Shabbos throughout the week. When we avoid doing something during the week in honor of Shabbos, we're honoring the Shabbos even during the week. Since it's again from Isaiah the Imrei Eish, I want to mention it. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, Umashchizin Asakin B'Erev Shabbos. There's an Indian to sharpen the knife on Erev Shabbos. First of all, in order to do this correctly, you should have a knife that's not serrated, and it's brought down from the Minchas Elazar, I think Ben Chusalaza, that the non-serrated knife was used because Shabbos is Mein Olam Haba, and the knife of the Malach HaMavis was serrated. So use a non-serrated knife and it has to be sharpened. So it's brought down from the Sifrei, V'yodata ki shalom alecha, you should know that this piece in your tent, that's to sharpen the knife. And as the Mishnah Berurah brings down, because if the knife is not sharp, you could have an argument with your wife, why isn't the knife sharp? So therefore you should sharpen the knife before Shabbos. They even want to say a remez that it says Vehichinu eis asher yaviu, which of course is talking about the mun, but eis also means cutting equipment, like it says itim are cutting equipments. So Vehichinu eis means you should prepare the cutting equipment. I bought a cheap knife sharpener. It's very easy to get in the store, and I sharpen the knife before Shabbos, and it says it's a school for Shalom Bayis. Also, it's brought down, I said it's from Isaiah, the Imrei Eish, because Likutei Mariach tells a famous Maisa from Isaiah, that Isaiah was sharpening the knife. On one Friday he says, why am I doing this? I could give it to one of my daughters and I should be learning. So he did just that. He gave the knife to one of his daughters, and he pulled out a Shulchan Aruch and he opened it to the page where it says Mashchin Zina Sakin. And he said, the husband should do it. And it's interesting that the Likutei Mariach brings next to this Maisa, he brings that sharpening the knife is a Sakin Chad who's skula leparnasa. Who doesn't want a skula for parnasa? Isn't that great? Although somebody just told me over from one of the big rebbes, he says the best skula for parnasa is to get a job, which is a good word. The best skula for parnasa is to get a job, but it is also a skula for parnasa to have a sharp knife. And he brings down, the Likutei Mariach brings down an interesting reason, because if the knife is sharp, it doesn't make crumbs. And the Gemara says if there's crumbs and you step on it, it's kosher l'anias, it causes poverty. However, I want to add another reason I believe why we sharpen the knife. The Per Aaron, Zech Tzadik Kodesh Baruch Eskusi Yogan Aleinu Hashem Yinkum Damai, on the Haggadah Shel Pesach says that chatoch, to cut, is one of the names of Hashem of Parnasa. And he says why? Because it's the Seif Tevis of Pesach Es Yodecha. Pesach ends with a Ches, Es ends with a Saf, Yodecha ends with a Chaf, so that's Chatoch. And I believe that this is the reason why we buy, it's a skula, I have this skula, where we buy an unserrated knife, Erev Rosh Hashanah, as a skula for Parnasa, when on Rosh Hashanah, a Mezayna Yisaf Shel Adam is Ketzuvin like. It's an easy minig, and it promises good things, Parnasa and Shalom Bayis, so why not do it? Before I conclude, I again want to thank Neil Stern for sponsoring this year. He wanted to sponsor it especially for Shabbos Nachamu, and of course the Rubin family for sponsoring the segment known as For the Shabbos Table. If you want to sponsor next week's share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. During Tisha B'Av, if you would like to see shiurim, I uploaded onto YouTube some interesting shiurim. There's a share that I gave in 5776 in the Nikolsberger Shul. There's a share that I gave. A preface to Eicha and also a preface to Kinnis. That's all on YouTube. Also, there is a share on TorahAnytime.com on Vaeschanan, plus this year will be available for the Shabbos table Vaeschanan. The daf for Tisha B'Av will be given Motzi Shabbos, Motzi Tisha B'Av at 10 p.m. You go to zoomdaf.com. Erev Tisha B'Av Shir is already uploaded to Torah Anytime, Kaloshin, and to YouTube. I just want to finish off with a very powerful Avud Raham. What an interesting Avud Raham. We know it says Hayom, 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 and because it says Hayom, Hayom, Hayom 3 times, we have a mitzvah to eat 3 sudas on Shabbos. And those 3 sudas carry very powerful protection. It saves a person. It says, Mechevle Moshiach, from the pains of Mashiach, Mimilchagnis Gog Magog, from the war of Gog and Magog, and Medina Shel Gehenna. I remember that once when I was a scholar in residence by Rav Heinemann told me that if he had his way, he would do away with the shul shalashudas, because he says he's afraid, because since the husband is in shul, the wife and the daughters don't eat shalashudas, and they're missing out on this protection. The third meal is Medina Shel Gehenna. That's an amazing protection, shalashudas. So it's interesting. The Avod Raham says a reason for 3 sudas, which I found extremely fascinating. The Avod Raham says if there would be only 2 meals, then a person would eat so much that he would be wiped out the whole Shabbos. And Hashem doesn't want that. Hashem wants us to use the Shabbos. You know, when I saw this Avod Raham, I thought about the custom of Kiddush hopping that people do today. After davening, they don't just go to one Kiddush. They go to 4 or 5 Kiddush, where in one place they have the boards with the dried meat, another place they have the best single malt scotch, and another place they have the best Ziegelman's cake. By the time they come home, they're already very tipsy, they're already overeaten. Here the wife prepared a beautiful meal. The children are waiting for their father. First of all, they're waiting, they're hungry. And second of all, the person comes in, he's not a mensch, he's not ready to eat. That's not a way to spend Shabbos. I had a Rebbe, I remember, he's not alive anymore. It was a very big Talmid Chacham. His name was Rav Green. I think after he left the yeshiva of Staten Island, he went to Stulin. It was a huge Talmid Chacham. He taught me both in 11th and 12th grade. And I remember him saying as a kind of a joke that if a person eats a lot of cholent, he's tchilasai b'pshia v'seifa b'aynas. He's initially a pshia because he shouldn't have. At the end, he's an aynas. He doesn't come to the afternoon seder because what could he do? He's in a stupor for all the food that he ate. But Avod Raham is telling us that we should make sure to use our time on Shabbos also for learning and avodas Hashem. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for joining us in this shiur. If you have not yet finished your fast, we want to wish you to have a productive and easy fast and a wonderful Shabbos Nachma.